Another stop along our historic triangle adventure is Jamestown Settlement. Hey guys, today we're at the Jamestown Settlement and we're gonna see what the fort at Jamestown might have looked like. There's a museum where you can see all different kinds of displays, and we even get to see a Native American Powhatan village.
There's also going to be ships here that we can get on the ships. Just tons of artifacts. It's going to be a great time. Thanks for coming along with us.
The Jamestown Settlement is different from the historic Jamestown that we visited a few videos ago. This one is located about a mile from the original Jamestown site. And on this site is a museum which we're looking at right now with a lot of artifacts that archaeologists have dug up.
Never forget who we are. Our children's children will know our history and our culture. I'd like to share it with you too. Come inside to learn more.
And the sleeping benches lining the walls. Women continue to make their traditional hand-coiled clay pottery, although sometimes in new European shapes.
This wooden structure represents what the Powhatans would have lived in the 17th century. The museum had an education wing, a gift shop, a theater, and a lot of galleries to go through. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video where we will actually get to board a recreation of 2 of the 3 ships that came to America. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up.
He came to Jamestown bound in servitude, but worked to earn his freedom. Back then, Virginia's Indian tribes were independent nations. Some were important allies to the colonial government. But big change was coming to Virginia.
Governor Barclay, I present to you Kakakaweski, Queen of the Pamunkey.
It all began when the governor called upon the leader of the Pamunkey Indians for help, despite years of broken English promises.
While we really enjoyed going through the museum and seeing all of the artifacts, our favorite was the living history part of this, which is outdoors. Then we make our way outside to the recreated James Fort. And they recreated this from what archaeologists have discovered at the real site of Jamestown. From what the archaeologists have discovered, they knew approximately where each building was located, the size of each building, and the purpose of each building. As we walk through these buildings, we really get a feel of what it must have been like back in the 1600s living in this fort. Scared the bejeebus out of me. I was not expecting that. It scared me. This is the blacksmith.
Okay, this is the bread pudding that my coworkers did yesterday. And this is oats, which I can grind this up to make bread. I don't always have to have wheat flour, I can also have oats.
It was so fun exploring this fort, which would have been the military outpost from 1610 to 1614. They had some period-correct armor there, which we actually got to try on, and it was quite heavy. I'm not sure how those guys wore them. And this is a recreation of the church where John Rolfe and Pocahontas would have been married. We were able to see the original site when we went to historic Jamestown. Oh, this looks like their whiskey or their something stored, their provisions.
Tobacco.
Oh yeah, tobacco. Each corner of the fort had a platform which was used to defend the fort, and this is where they stored all of their artillery. This building was used for their weapon storage and their armor.
Open pan, give fire. I say give fire, it should go off. And so the best time to kind of cover your ears. Present your piece. Open your pan, give fire. Well, work that time. Woo! Next is going to be the effective range. Effective range means you can hit a man-sized target within about a 30-degree radius in about 40 yards. Trails off quite a bit after that. One of the advantages of the bow and arrow is going to be the loading time. A Powhatan warrior can load 10, 12 or more arrows in a minute. So they're accurate and they're fast. They can get off a lot of arrows really quick. They're going to go up against the matchlock musket. The matchlock musket has an effective range, again, a man-sized target within a 30-degree radius of about 100 yards. So it's got more than double the effective range. Then there's the power. This is about 20 times more powerful. Pike and shot here thinking they're going to be fighting Spain. And the Spanish attack, never happens. So they end up just fighting the indigenous peoples, the local population, the Powhatans. They have several weapons. They have the monocock. They have the tomahawk. The tomahawk is not a hatchet.
Then we made our way down to where the Native Americans would have made their dugout canoes. It was so interesting to see. Then we came to our favorite part of the whole day, and that is where we got to board 2 of the 3 recreated ships from 1607. There were 3 ships that sailed from England to America: the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery. This ship is the Godspeed. We also got to board the Susan Constant, which is the largest ship.
Very far without those. And usually we're going to be leaning away from the wind. So if the wind's coming from this way, the boat will be leaning this way, so all the bilge water will pool up on the starboard side. All right, my name is Lucas, and what I'm holding here is called the Traverse Board. It's used in a method of navigation called dead reckoning, which means that sailors will use bits of information to estimate how much distance we have covered. At the top here, we've got the compass with all 32 directions on it. Sailors will keep track of their heading every 30 minutes by placing pins into the corresponding quadrant for the direction they've been sailing. For example, if we were sailing northeast for the last half hour, we'll place a pin in the first ring coming out from the center and repeat that every 30 minutes. So if we sail the next half hour northeast again, place another pin on the next ring. At the bottom on these rows, we keep track of the speed we have been sailing at. By using a chip log, which has a long spool of line attached to it with knots tied into it every 40 feet, we can gauge the relative speed of the ship. If 5 knots unspool from the log in 30 seconds, that tells me our speed is 5 knots. I will mark that on the board every 30 minutes by placing a pin in the corresponding hole on each row every half hour. So by knowing the direction we've been sailing and the amount of time and speed we've been sailing at, I can approximate our location because distance traveled is equal to speed multiplied by time. This is not as accurate as the GPS methods of navigation that we use nowadays, but it will prove accurate enough to help these English sailors find their way from London to Jamestown and back again. So that's my way of saying that the Jamestown voyage in 1607 took 4.5 months, and there were 52 men aboard this ship called the Godspeed under the command of Bartholomew Gosnold as captain. Like the other ships, the colonists will be spending most of the voyage down below deck in the cargo space, while the sailors work the main deck up here. Please continue to have a look around. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Susan Constant was a replica of the largest of the 3 ships, came over 1607, but had 71 men on board for a 144-day journey. Almost 5 months.
This little boat.
Yeah, gonna be crowded. Helps if you think you're gonna get rich when you get here. This is partially the plan. Find gold, find a Northwest Passage, something to make it all worth your while.
Can we go down?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We do recommend you go down backwards, a little bit safer that way.
I never thought of a ship having a place for a fire, but I guess they did have to cook. And this, I guess, is where the cook slept. It was so cool seeing underneath this ship, and I can only imagine how crowded it was with all those people on board.
Who would stay in this part of the
So this is the
ship?
officers' quarters.
Officers.
We got 3 bunks for the senior officers, and the captain's cabin is all the way in the back.
Okay, so 3 bunks. Now, is this pretty much a close replica of the size?
It's as close as, size-wise, it's accurate, give or take a couple inches. Close as we can get it based off of shipwrecks we found from a similar time period.
Now, where would they have like the big wheel? Do they have the big wheel, or do they just have the rudder?
The ship's wheel had not been invented yet, so
Okay.
they're using this piece called the whipstaff.
Oh, whipstaff. Okay.
It connects to the tiller, which runs out the back of the ship to the rudder.
Okay. So he's pretty much just blind guiding it. Someone telling him.
Yes, you have an officer on watch on top of this hatch, and he's going to yell out a compass heading, and we're going to whoever's steering is going to look at this compass right here.
We were told that people slept everywhere down here. Anywhere they could find a spot, that's where they slept. They also didn't have stairs to go from deck to deck. They used a rope ladder instead. Could that be Rose from the Titanic? Gotta have a little fun, you know. Then we got to explore the Powhatan way of life in a recreation based on a nearby archaeological site once inhabited by the Powhatan Indians, the Powhatan tribal group which was closest to Jamestown.
Farm food, but they do a lot of hunting and gathering as well, certainly, and a huge amount of fishing. So they're really hitting all their bases, which is why they're doing so well. They're really thriving in this environment here.
We asked this young man if he was a descendant of the Powhatan Indian tribe, and he said he was not, but he was, however, a Native American.
Because the cane is fabulous, but if I shoot trees and rocks with it all day in the pursuit of small game, it's going to start to blow apart. War clubs, as well as their hatchets. The hatchets would be like this, but this is for building houses. You would need a smaller, thinner, lighter one to be considered really a hatchet. Like the Powhatan or other tribes, or even the English using longbows, you're kind of tapping into a nice ratio where if my bow is about my height, it can sustain a full open draw as far as I can realistically pull back. If I'm beyond really my eye or my cheek, you're not really able to aim down the arrow very well. So this bow will support and generate as much power as possible.
This guy was showing us some painting techniques that the Powhatans used using natural materials and coloring. When we go through places like this, it often makes us sad as we think about the Native Americans and how they were treated and how their whole entire way of life was altered once the settlers arrived. We think it's important to have places like this so that we can know how they lived and their history and traditions can live on. We highly recommend Jamestown Settlement. If you'd like to see more of our videos on the historic triangle, click the playlist that just popped up on your screen